Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Vivian from ThePaperLetterBlog. I also like to refer to myself as the Chatty Penpal channel for obvious reasons, and today I have a super fun video for you showing all sorts of Penpal goodies that you can make yourself from paper scraps. Best part. Now, today is a celebratory day. I will explain more about that in a second. I first want to say that yes, my voice may sound a little bit creaky because I'm not feeling 100% great, but I was so excited I didn't want to wait with filming this video, and I didn't want to wait with uploading it. I also want to say that if you like this video, you will love hearing that there's another part, and that is over on Patreon. Normally the extra videos are only available for the member tier, but because it's a celebratory month, the video will also be available for the sneak peek tier for a limited moment of time. So let me quickly explain to you why we're celebrating. If you don't want to hear this, you can skip, it's all good, but I am a Chatty Penpal channel and I'm far too excited not to share this with you. So there's 3 reasons why we're celebrating. Reason number 1, we reached 9,000 subscribers on YouTube. When I started this channel, I had no idea we would ever go this far. I remember celebrating my first 10 and 50 and 100 and 1,000 subscribers, and now we're at 9,000, which is absolutely insane. So big thank you to all of you for liking my videos, commenting on my videos, sharing my videos, and also, of course, sharing your projects made with my tutorials. That is like the best part of all of this. So that is celebratory reason number 1, of course, big reason for celebration. Celebratory reason number 2 is it is my 1-year anniversary from Patreon. So a year ago, I started a Patreon page and it has been so much fun. Like I said, I also made a separate part of this video for Patreon, so I will be talking more about how thankful I am for everyone in that video. But I just quickly wanted to say that for me, Patreon has been such a safe place to kind of experiment and be myself and share more ideas that I might have been a little bit unsure about, but then the ideas were like welcomed by such a supportive community. I have not regretted starting a Patreon for a minute. So if you're interested in being a part of a fun community like that, definitely check out my Patreon. You can subscribe for as little as 1 month. So if you just want to check it out, you totally can. Like I said, normally all of the extras are only available to the member tier, but because it's a celebratory day, the extra video will also be available to sneak peek for now. Second part of the Patreon celebration will be a swap I will be hosting, and in that swap we will be making a bunch of the goodies that we're making in today's video, as well as some other things. The third reason we are celebrating is my PO box is officially back in business. I already opened it kind of silently, like mentioning it here and there, but it's back in business. I wrote a whole blog post with like guidelines, nothing too intimidating. It's just, the main thing is just I ask people to wait 8 weeks in between sending their letters and some other things. But you know, please read the blog post if you are interested in sending me mail. And I can't wait to start doing the PO box opening videos again. Now, 3 reasons to celebrate. I have dozens of ideas to show you today. I am super proud of this video and I really hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Okay, first up, this is a sneak peek of the goodies we made in the Patreon video. I wanted to quickly add that if you're thinking of joining the swap I mentioned, you need to sign up to my Patreon member tier before the end of March because I'm going to assign partners in April. I'm showing this clip twice because this video is going to go quite fast. I just wanted to shove as many ideas in one video as I possibly could. Starting with idea number 1, tiny words. Now, I have a beautiful typewriter, but of course you do not need one at all. You could also use a printer or even like one of those label printers, or if you have really neat handwriting, feel free to write them by hand. There are dozens of free printables available online. I will link my Pinterest board with all sorts of printables down below because I've shared quite a few. Then, as you can see, I typed out multiple words on different types of pages, and I wrapped them up in 2 ways. One of them is all cut out, so ready to use, and the other one is just the little sheet for my Penpal to cut out themselves. As you can see, I wrote out different things like incoming happiness, happy meal, and beautiful, believe, special, and goodies, all sorts of things you can use for decorating. Next up, a little journal or collage paper bundle. This is one of those super easy ideas that looks really cool. You can use all sorts of paper. As you can see, I'm using grid paper, music note paper, vintage paper, craft paper, as well as some printed paper. But you know, feel free to use whatever you have. Cut them to, I would say, somewhat the same width, so they don't have to be equally long, just as long as they're in width kind of the same. Punch a hole in them and bind that together with, as I've done, a split pin, an eyelet, or you can use a split pin, or you can just use twine, or whatever else you can think of. You can also use a staple. I'm going to show you a really fun and easy idea in a second from a paper bundle that I have received from Taryn. She uses mainly vintage pages, and she kind of put that all together in a little matchbook. Now, a matchbook is super easy to make, and lucky for you, I have a tutorial for that coming up later on in this video as well. Idea number 3, shakers. You know I love my sparkles, so of course I had to include some shakers in here. In my brand wrap package, I got those Neenah pages. I have no clue if that's the right word. And I am going to show you how to make a shaker with this, but I'm actually going to make 2 types of shakers, so if you don't want to make this one, you can make the other one. I am stamping and coloring in these envelope stamps and I'm going to use my fuse tool to kind of melt that together. Some of you may recognize this tool, some of you may not. It's basically a tool that gets super hot and it melts the plastic sleeve you create kind of together, but I messed it up the first time. It didn't stay, so I used different plastic and I managed to finish that. Super simple. And I also decided to reuse the plastic I messed up the first time for the second shaker. For the second shaker, we do not need a fuse tool. You just need paper scraps, some foam board, and some plastic for the window, or you could use vellum if you prefer. And of course, again, some shakers. I used a die cut to cut out these fun shapes, and I made one window for the top and one puffy bottom. And I am now, of course, going to add some sequins, and then I'm going to glue that all back together. This may go a little bit fast because I cannot do full tutorials for like 10 plus different projects in one video, but if you would like me to explain this a little bit more in detail, let me know, because I can of course add it in a Penpal with me video. But as you can see, both of them are fully functional shakers that a magpie like me really loves. Idea number 4, a handmade bookmark. Many of these ideas I got from Instagram because I asked a lot of you what you like to do with paper scraps, and so many of you said handmade bookmarks, which I love. I haven't done a handmade bookmark in so long. So what I showed you just now is a postcard with the little pink moons on it that we got when we ordered some gifts online. I loved the postcard, so I just decided to use some paper scraps to cover up the message and then turn it into a little bookmark. Of course, you don't have to recycle a postcard, you can just use any other paper you have laying around. I decorate it with stickers and stamps and a wax seal stamp and all that jazz. Idea number 5, handmade vintage labels. Now, as you can see, I once again grabbed my vintage paper, but I have a really fun trick for you, because many of these vintage books or old books or any type of books have a lot of like empty space.
So as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm using a label stamp to fill up that empty space with little labels. The vintage paper gives a really cool effect to this, but of course you could use white cardstock or any other type paper you have laying around. And then since I already had all of my crafting supplies out, I also decided to do some of my favorite stamps on that book page, the rest of the book page that I wouldn't use because it's not bare space, and I simply cut them out and I'm going to put them in this Matchbook Pocket, which I mentioned before. All you need is a long paper scrap. As you can see, you can kind of see the shape. The size doesn't really matter. I'm also going to trim a little piece off of this. And what you do is super simple. You first fold over a little flap for the bottom. I'm trying to find my scoring tool here, but you fold over a tiny flap for the bottom. I would say less than an inch, but that kind of depends on your preferences. And then you're going to fold the remainder of the paper into a flap. As you can see, I'm cutting off a little bit, and what I'm showing you here is all you have to do is make sure you create a big flap that goes behind the little flap. It's going pretty fast, but I promise it will make sense in a second. But before we can actually close the matchbook, we are going to create a pocket. I am using this kind of vellum paper that was used for wrapping some gifts, and I'm simply measuring it to size. I'm eyeballing all of this. There's no precise measurements needed at all, and then I'm just using a little circle punch to create like a little bite out of the top, and I'm going to glue that in. It's very important that you do this before you staple. I've made the mistake before because I am a clumsy person, but you know, learn from my mistakes. So what you do is you just staple once in the middle of the smaller flap, and then as you can see, the bigger flap goes behind that, kind of closing the flip book. These are the goodies that we stamped and that I cut out, and I'm just going to add them to the Matchbook Pocket. As you can see, it's mainly labels, but I of course wanted to add some decorational goodies as well. And then closed. I'm ready to go. Of course I am going to decorate it. I made these before, and then I would usually decorate the front and the inside. Idea number 7, eco-friendly sequins. Now, I already said that I love sparkles, but I often feel guilty about the fact that they are all plastic. So I purchased these mini dies that punch out these mini sequins, but you can also use hole punchers or like shape punchers, as I showed you just before. And then this is them all together. I think that looks really, really fun. Then idea number 8, mini envelopes. I'm again going to show you the dies I've used, but don't you worry about a thing if you don't have a die cutting machine, because you can always find alternatives. I have a tutorial up on my channel that lets you create envelopes using whatever tools you have and also whatever size paper you have. And the best part is you don't actually need all of the tools. So that's why I said here, check out my tutorial. Of course, I'm going to use the supplies that I have, but if you don't have them, there's other ways. Idea number 9. This is probably one of my favorites. It's a do-it-yourself paper pad. Now, as you can see, I sometimes am quite organized, and I stored all of these, what is it called? Dear Lizzie, She's Magic paper scraps all together, and I picked out my favorites. I cut them all to exactly the same size, and I also chose a cut apart for the front. I actually used the front, the one with a little label on it, as measuring for how big I wanted the pages to be. And then what you do is kind of scary, but you hold the top close together. So I use clothespins so that they're like really tight. And then you're just going to put all-purpose glue or craft glue directly on the top of the pages. And trust me, this actually works, and you will see why in a second. What I do then is I'm going to spread it out using my finger and let that dry. I do want to say that I got this idea from someone on Instagram. I don't know the name right now, but I promise I will try to find it and link it down below, because of course I like mentioning where I got my ideas from, and in this case I definitely got it from another creator. And then I'm just making a little cover for the flip book. You don't, or the paper pad. You don't actually have to do that, but I thought it looked nice. And then as you can see, the pages are all glued together, but they are not, like there's no glue on the pages. And the best part is this is a fully functioning paper pad. So I have an example that I will show you in a second. And it shows you that you can actually tear off, there is my example, you can actually tear off the pages without damaging them. So other than the idea I showed you before with the collage papers, the paper actually stays fully usable, if that makes sense. So that's why I was super excited about this. I think it's a very fun way to use up your scraps. I also think that using scraps might be easier when they're all the same size. And of course your pen pal could use this to tear out the pages, or use this as a flip book, or even as a little journaling pad. So as you can see, I was super duper pleased with this, and I hope you are too. Idea number 10 is super simple. It's a quote card. Before I forget, by the way, I also wanted to ask you, if you use any of these ideas, please use the hashtag ThePaperLetterBlog when you share them on Instagram. I would love to see what you make with them. My quote is super cheesy. It's believe in yourself, because my brain wasn't working anymore. But you get the idea, right? To use a little paper scrap for a quote. Idea number 11 is also really fun. It's a collage postcard. Now I have these free postcards. They're actually from my workplace, but you know, you can find free postcards everywhere. And I didn't like the front, so I once again, same as with the bookmark, decided to cover that up. Except this time I am covering up the front, and with the bookmark I was covering up the back. And then what I'm going to do is I am kind of folding, like really tightly folding strips of paper, and what that does is it actually makes it easier for you to tear in a straight line. If only I knew this when I started crafting. And I'm going to use all of these paper strips to create a fun envelope postcard layout. The bottom craft paper that I'm using is actually from a bag that we got takeaway food in. That was like a brunch, and it came in these craft paper bags with this kind of fishtail design, and obviously I knew that I had to save that for crafting. So there is what it looks like now. I think it looks really fun, but we're going to make it look even more fun. I have a die that says hello. I'm just going to stick that on there. It's kind of hard to see right now, but I'm going to line it with some white jelly roll, and then of course I'm going to decorate with some Nuvo drops because they are my favorites. I also have a really fun do-it-yourself idea with Nuvo drops in the Patreon video. So once again, shameless plug, check it out if you're interested in seeing that. And then this is the jelly roll. I'm just going to line out the hello so that you can see it a bit better. Now, this is a postcard that I'm going to send to someone, but of course you could also use this to create the base of a flip book. Then, idea number 12, Masterboard Goodies. I've done a video with this once before. I will also link it down below if I don't forget. But a masterboard is basically a piece of paper, in my case just a printer page, where, this is my despair with all of the paper scraps, where you basically stick all sorts of pretty scraps on. I used quite large pieces of paper here, but you can use smaller ones if you like as well. I'm going quite fast, which is also why I'm using bigger paper scraps, because I wanted to do this for the video, but I didn't want it to take like 7 hours. So yeah, but what I did is I used all sorts of paper scraps, and then I was hoping to incorporate some magazine clip outs, but I found that a little bit difficult, but I did add some coloring book pages. Next to all of that, you can also use washi tape or stickers or die cuts, or like I'm doing here, stamps. I personally like to keep everything kind of flat. Like if I would start using die cuts, it would become kind of fat and more difficult to use with. I think I would prefer adding those after, because what you're going to do with this is actually really fun. After adding all of the stamps and the little decorations, we are going to cut this into pieces. You can do that with scissors and just use it as is, or you could use what I'm going to do again, dies. So I'm going to cut this into flags and stickers or tags or whatever else, and then use them as goodies. If you don't have any of this, or if you don't want to cut them into projects, You could also, of course, keep the whole sheet and use it for collaging or decorating, or tear off a little strip when you want to make an envelope just a little bit more special. So as you can see, here is everything. As you can see, I made a ton of flags simply because I thought that was kind of fun, but also tags and random shapes. Lots of random shapes. I think this is really, really fun. Like I said, I have done this once before, but then with mainly vintage pages, and I have to say I love the way this looks with all of the colors as well. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's it actually. I'm going to leave you here. Like I said, if you decide to do anything with one of these videos, please do tag me on Instagram or use the hashtag ThePaperLetterBlog. I would really love to see what you're making, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I worked on it very hard and I'm so excited to share. So a big thank you to my patrons, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye!